Hi everyone. So I just want to pop on really quickly. I've just been sharing a lot recently and I thought this might be helpful to you. So the other day when we went grocery shopping, we did get a little bit of extras. We tried to get a lot of fresh produce. And then we also stocked up on some things that would not spoil, like canned beans and gluten-free rice and things like, or gluten-free rice noodles. So things like that we could have, just depending on how things go. And we're prioritizing the fresh foods and things like that. And then obviously we'll go grocery shopping again, assuming everything stays normal and available. But I thought I would just pop on really quickly, and I know many of you, besides everything crazy that's going on in the world right now, popped into this group specifically for healthy eating recipes and for ideas. And so I'm making a soup. A soup is a really great way not only to get produce in, but also something that you can make a lot of with seemingly little food. It's a pretty budget-friendly way to make a dinner. So like if I make a double batch of chili, that'll usually last our family for like a solid week. If I make soups, same deal. If I make a lot of it in an Instapot or crock pot, then it'll usually last us for dinner one night and then lunches throughout the week. So it's a really cost-effective way to make food go a long way. It also is a great way to get a lot of vegetables in. And so the other day I was like, when we were at the grocery store, they happened to have a lot of root vegetables. So here we have in my Instapot, let's see what we have. I think I have beets in there and golden, what are those? I know I have radishes, beets, and then something else. I don't know if it's maybe a golden beet. We might have red beets and golden beets in here. It might be a lot of beets. We're going to have a lot of poop in this week. So root vegetables are super great as prebiotics for your digestive system. So they're super great for feeding the good bacteria. They're super great for your poop. They're super good for just a lot of things. You have some protein in there with the beans. And so really the biggest tip that I can give you with soups is you can just make it up. There's 3 components that really come into soup. One is the base. If you want a creamy base, you can use canned coconut milk. If you want more of a broth base, you can use chicken broth or water. Then you have the second part, which is the components. So for this, I'm just chopping up a lot of vegetables, and I have 2 cans of white beans in there that I've rinsed off and put in there. You can always, if you want more of a beef-based soup, you can add, whatever, ground turkey, ground beef, ground bison, however you want to do it. Or you can put like chicken breasts in there and then tear them once you've cooked it. Like if you're going to cook it in the crock pot or the Instapot, you can tear them apart. You'll have shredded chicken in your soup at the end. So there's just so many different ways. So the first part is like, what kind of a base do you want? Just keep it simple, water or broth or coconut milk. The second part is like, what kind of a soup do I want? Do I want it to be heavy in vegetables? Do I want it to have meat in it? Do I want it to have beans in it? And just mix and match. Honestly, what I have found is you can't really go wrong unless you under-season it. So that's the third part of making a good soup, and that is seasonings. Now, this can include things like celery and onions because they have a lot of flavor. So if you chop a bunch of celery and a little bit of onions in there, that naturally adds a lot of flavor, especially with onion while you cook something. And then just really getting familiar with your spice cabinet. So for example, this is something we could go 10 different directions with. It's a root vegetable soup with some beans. There's no meat, so we could just go with, garlic and maybe some rosemary or basil, or we could go more ethnic and focus on like cumin and curry spices. So kind of pick little flavors. What I did when I was learning how to cook, because by the way, none of this is through school or anything. It's trial and error. I just figured it out as I went along, and I did a lot of experimenting. But one thing that I learned to do when I was kind of figuring it out and trying different things was, while I'm making the food, to smell the spices before I put them in to see if I feel like that is a good fit for what I'm making. If you get 2 to 4 spices in there, you should be good. Be generous with your dry spices, and then usually add some salt. It's better, I find. I used to for a while I was like, oh, I'll just let people salt their food. But if you cook with the salt in the food, it really helps the flavors come out during the cooking process. And then they can salt it extra after. Garlic is always good, almost regardless of any flavor that you're going to do with your spices. So if you are adding garlic cloves, or maybe you have some pre-chopped garlic cloves in the fridge that you add in, that's usually a good addition to any sort of spice combination. So you really can't mess it up too badly. And that's the foundation of a good soup, is the base. Just figure out, do you want it creamy or do you want it brothy? The ingredients, do you want to have meat? Do you want it to focus on beans? Do you want it to be like vegetable based? How much do you want in there? Like, do you want it to be super thick and rich? Or another tip, if you want to do that, is to make it a broth based, but then have a lot of vegetables that you blend together, and that'll make it a thick, creamy vegetable soup, even though you didn't use the creamy base. And then the third thing is to just season it. And if you're not used to what the seasonings taste like, smell them, because it's very similar, and kind of smell them together and see if they smell good together. And those are my tips. So I would love to hear below if you guys have any tips for cooking large meals, or for blending spices, or for making soups by scratch like this. But anyways, that's what I got for you today, and I just wanted to share it, so I hope it's helpful.